People know you for what you've done, not for what you plan to do. Firstly, who are you? What are you doing? Where do you see yourself, not now, but in the tomorrows to come? How are you defined, and how much of this is the true you? Why have you allowed so many opportunities to slip by you? When does this change you've been contemplating come into play? I'm Theodore Henry with you on another Jamaica magazine, and starting today, replace your fear of the unknown with curiosity. Don't just exist, but live. The world in its whole is yours. Not just a slice, not just some crumbs, the whole is yours. Take it.
I'm sure my neighbors hear the screams and cries.
I'm sure by now they've seen the bruises through my oversized glasses.
Can they tell I'm depressed when we speak?
Are they counting my frequent days off from work?
Domestic violence is any pattern of behavior used by an individual to maintain control or power over another. Domestic violence is not just physical, it can also be verbal. If you're in a relationship where you are being abused or know of anyone, get out and speak up. Report domestic violence by calling 119 or the nearest police station. Get out before someone puts you out.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. The Jamaica Constabulary Force this week reported double-digit reductions in major crimes. Between January 1 and August 11, the police say there were fewer cases of aggravated assault, while murder dropped by 16.8% and shootings and rape both declined by approximately 15%. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that the state would be setting up a commission to deal with what he termed an epidemic of violence.
It is not a discussion for politicians solely to have. It is a national discussion, and when I announce this commission, I'm certain that we will be inviting members of the Press Association and the Media Association to participate to help us to come to a Jamaican solution to this issue of violence.
On Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness hosted his quarterly press briefing at Jamaica House and confirmed that he would be realigning his cabinet.
There will be some changes, obviously, and I've already started consultations on that, just to make sure that in making those changes, that in correcting one problem, I don't create another problem.
The National Works Agency will be rolling out a $239 million island-wide road patching program over the next few weeks. NAA's Communication and Customer Services Manager Stephen Shaw says it will complement a $123 million spray patching program that will be implemented in Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, Clarendon, St. Mary, Kingston, St. Andrew and St. Catherine. Jamaica is to benefit from increased technical support in the utilization of nuclear technology for development purposes, having signed a new 5-year country program framework with the International Atomic Energy Agency.
The new country program, which is applicable for the period 2018 to 2023, will focus on water and environment management, health and nutrition, food and agriculture, nuclear and radiation safety and security, and energy and industry.
More than 3,500 young people across the island are getting training and employment opportunities through the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development. This is the second year of the Youth Summer Employment Program.
Not only have we increased the numbers, but this year we will have some unique features to the program. This year we have included disaster risk management as a core function of the Youth Summer Employment Program.
Meanwhile, 16 youth from the Housing Opportunity Production and Employment HOPE program are now on internship at the Jamaica Constabulary Force to gain valuable work experience.
What we're doing here is helping our people, young people in particular, to excel in their own lives. And by doing that, they are now a meaningful contributor to to the development of the country as a whole.
51 liaison officers will soon be deployed in all 14 parishes to help keep youth clubs alive.
We're going to be doing 3 youth club assistants per constituency over the stage of the next year or so. And again, those are to ensure that they go into the communities, work with the clubs, get them sustainable so that they can take charge of these safe spaces.
And finally, upgrades on the Sangster International Airport's ramp and taxiway are now 80% complete. The airport says the $26 million resurfacing works being carried out by Mandeville-based company S&G Roads remains on track for completion by mid-September, with concrete works to end in November. And those were some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
As of May 31, whenever you are making local calls, you will have to use the area code 876 before you dial the existing 7-digit numbers in your contact list. This is because Jamaica will be receiving a new area code, 658. Yes, all Little Island will now have 2 area codes, and to ensure you're calling the right person, you will have to dial 10 digits. Don't worry, if this is new to you, you still have time to get used to it, because there is a 5-month permissive dialing period where you will be constantly reminded. 10-digit dialing, another step in making Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Remember I said earlier that the world is yours, but with privilege comes responsibility. And I say this to mark the official start of the bird shooting season today, August 18. The National Environment and Planning Agency acknowledges the thrill that comes with this unconventional sport. The agency also has seen how it endangers other plant and animal species and has found a way to ensure that all are allowed the opportunity for fun and protection.
Here, birds are at rest. Wild animals make their home. The inquisitive eye gets its full share of rich colors, and at times, man and animal venture into a game of hide and seek.
A game reserve is a protected area of land where birds are with part of their habitat where they would nest and so on, and it's not legal to shoot in those areas.
A game reserve is an area that the birds do their nesting.
A game reserve is a place where the birds them live there.
It's where people hunt birds and things like that. I don't remember anymore.
A game reserve is a place that I can't go. You're not allowed to shoot there, you're not allowed to fish there, you're not allowed to do anything to destroy the environment there.
A game reserve is a parcel of land or body of water or an area comprising both land and water within which the hunting of birds or any other animals is strictly prohibited. It's also illegal to bring into these game reserves any weapons or dogs for hunting, or even to take the nest of a bird.
In Jamaica, game reserves are monitored by the National Environment and Planning Agency.
Game reserves are like a refuge for game birds in particular, where they can escape all the hunting activities that are occurring on the island. They're also good roosting areas and breeding areas for these birds. In addition, some of these areas are also areas where a lot of endangered birds are, and we actually don't want any hunting activities in there in case there is accidental or illegal hunting of these birds. A lot of these game reserves do have many other species there. Another endangered species that's come to mind when we speak of wetlands, for example, is the endangered American crocodile. And we know a lot of people have some fear of the crocodile, and we just don't want that human-crocodile interactions, because the crocodile always comes out on the losing end. So it's always good to ensure that these areas are no shooting areas, no hunting areas.
Forest reserves are also considered game reserves as well.
There are 19 game reserves across the island, and we are currently at the Amity Hall and Goat Island Game Reserves, and this one in particular is a little interesting in that it's the only game reserve that incorporates both land and a body of water. Over here is actually a part of the game reserve, and in the background there, that's the Great Goat Island, and so between the mainland here and the Great Goat Island, this body of water is also a no shooting area.
So other than this, where are the other game reserves located on the island? There is the Great Morass Game Reserve in Holland Bay, St. Thomas. In St. Catherine, the Portmore and Greater Portmore and Cabaretta Point Game Reserves. In Clarendon, the Long Island, West Harbour Peak Bay and Mason River Savannah Game Reserves. Bordering on Clarendon and Manchester is the Alligator Pond, Gut River and Canoe Valley Game Reserves. Also in Manchester is the Reigate Game Reserve. Over in St. Elizabeth, there is the Black River Upper and Lower Morass Game Reserves, as well as the Parratee, Great Morass and Stanmore Hill Game Reserves. Bordering on Westmoreland and Hanover in Negril, there is the Great Morass Game Reserve. In Montego Bay, St. James, there is the Bogue Lagoon Creek Game Reserve, while over in the west, in the parish of Trelawney, is the Glistening Waters Game Reserve. Portland is home to the Fairy Hill Port Antonio Game Reserve, while St. Anne, Jamaica's Garden Parish, has the Knapdale Game Reserves. There is also the Kingston and St. Andrew Game Reserves.
On our NEPA website, for example, you can actually find maps of all these game reserves, and it's important for persons to know exactly where they are, because sometimes people would create new tracks and there won't be a sign necessarily at that new track. So it's important to know exactly where you are.
You're not allowed to hunt there, and if I was to go in there with my weapon to hunt and you found me, I could go to jail, so I won't go in there.
No shooting zone, you can't shoot there. If NEPA catch you, you go to jail.
That's right. These hunters know the law well, which declares that any person found in a game reserve in possession of any animal, bird, bird's eggs, or nests will be presumed to be in violation of the Wildlife Protection Act. This can attract a maximum fine of $100,000, 12 months imprisonment, or both, if convicted by a resident magistrate.
So for each game reserve, there is actually a buffer around the game reserve of 50 meters. So persons are required to observe a 50-meter zone around each game reserve where no hunting is allowed or no trapping of birds or animals is allowed. We are along the edge of the Amity Hall and Goat Island Game Reserve, and this is actually the boundary, one of the boundary lines, this canal right here, and so no hunting is allowed within 50 meters of this canal, and everything over here is actually a part of the game reserve where no hunting is allowed.
There are signs at the entrance to game reserves. Identifying one is an easy feat. For more information on game reserves, contact the National Environment and Planning Agency at 754-7540 or visit their website at nepa.gov.jm.
The Disabilities Act will protect the rights of all persons with disabilities. And here's a great teaching moment. Every person with a disability, like a deaf or hard of hearing child, for example, has the right to an education with accessible facilities and the support they need. In this case, it would be a teacher who can use the language of the deaf, which is sign language. Visit jcpdja.com. A message from the JCPD, an agency of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
There are some questions that you'll never know the answers to, full stop, and some just more confusing with the explanation. Here's the answer to one you probably never thought about or never knew would be answered.
Traffic signal, as we refer to it as, it's a system of electronic controls that we use to assist in managing traffic at particular locations along our corridors. In managing the flow, there's a system. We have mast arms. We have the signal heads. Signal heads are what you see, the lights, whether green, amber, or red. We have wires that are connected to a control box. The control box has a number of components that assist us in managing the flows through the intersection or junction. Now, before we actually signalize an intersection or a junction, we do traffic counts. So we know where it is the bulk of the vehicles are coming from or they're heading to. You want to have that information so that in setting the timings, in rehearsing the timings for persons to go through, you know what amount of green time you're going to be giving to a particular phase of the intersection as opposed to another. Our traffic signals, the systems are on a fiber optic network that is actually right across the country. So we have a combination of fiber and microwave links that we're using to roll out what we call a public safety network. And the systems that we have been incorporating our camera systems with these, and so we're able to monitor traffic through our traffic management center that we have at the corporate office 140 Maxfield Avenue, and it gives us the ability to change the timings that we have at these locations remotely. In other words, we don't have to have our officers physically going to the location, changing the timings.
In the traffic management center, we have something called QuickNet. So in present day right now, this is what we use to remotely manage all traffic lights. What you're seeing on the screen now is a virtual display of what is in the cabinet at the intersection via our traffic camera. At the first display, you can see this is our Model 170 controller. This is what we use as a standard in Kingston. So right now you can see all the visual displays. This is what exactly you see in a traffic cabinet. Beside it, you see a graphical representation of what is happening at the stoplight. So at the cameras, you can see two true movements and a turning movement, moving from green to amber to red. And now you can see the turning movement start. So you can see two turning movements and a left turning movement happening right now, as well as a forward turning movement at the next part of the intersection. So the graphic can show you the plan, the status, the cycle length, offset values, traffic statistics. So using this, you can see if the stoplight is working efficiently or not. So this will tell us if the stoplight is down, off, in any problem or whatever. So before people have to call and report a stoplight is down, with this system, when everything is integrated, you won't have to. You automatically know. What you're seeing now on the screen is a viewing of Halfway Tree area, the Kingston metropolitan area, where we can now monitor traffic remotely. So before, to put up our traffic lights, somebody would have to go months prior and record the traffic data to put up a signal. Now we can have somebody here remotely counting traffic, as well as several different other specialized cameras to count the traffic for us. So specifically, we can look at specific intersections, say for this one example. If we see the traffic is building up, we can allot more time to a specific intersection to allow the through traffic to flow.
We have well over 100 locations across the country where we have signals, and the number continues to grow because every year we look at new locations to signalize. The demand is quite high, and the demand grows with the numbers of vehicles that we are seeing on our roads.
As a Jamaican, I believe it's in our genetic makeup to personalize the most foreign of things and make it some sort of our own. Take today's word, for example, braggadocio. This is an English expression describing one who is boastful and arrogant. Similarly, when we say braggadocio make cockroach keep dancing a foul cub, we refer to one who takes risks and sees his or herself as untouchable. Braggadocio, yet another expression melted in the out of many one pot.
Don't let the street go. The asphalt don't out and become the orange juice. Like, no, you gotta ride it, right.
The CSJP, through Men with a Message, are serving as standard bearers for at-risk youth. These inspirational men have turned away from a life of crime and are using their stories to impact others. Under Phase 1 and 2 of the Citizen Security and Justice Program, close to 30,000 at-risk youth were fed positive messages to assist them in making constructive life choices, creating a crime-free Jamaica.
Those who live it tell it best. The European Union in Jamaica.
Hi, Mas Errol. How you do?
Not too bad.
This is what's so interesting in the paper today, Mas Errol.
Enough things. Did you know that the EU has been doing a lot of work in Jamaica?
Who is the EU again, Mas Errol?
The European Union. A group of European nations that come together to promote social and economic progress and peace across the world.
For true? Newspaper is all well and good, but I bet I can find more information from the internet. I know just the person to call. Hi, Minister.
Minister.
Hi, Jody. Hi, Errol. What can you tell us about how the European Union has been helping Jamaica?
Over the past 43 years, we have received approximately 1.2 billion euros, and this has run the gamut of a number of developmental programs. A particular area of support has been in the area of agriculture. The EU has provided grant funding and support funding for sugar-dependent areas.
Between 2006 and 2017, the EU provided some 23 billion Jamaican dollars to help people living in areas that are dependent on sugar. Under the AMS, 397 houses have been built for residents. This replaces the old barracks-type housing in which they used to live.
The condition of the barracks were completely rough.
No light, no water.
We never have any transport. The bathroom is outside and the toilet was a pit toilet.
We never have no tank, we have a tank. The lights are here, the bathroom inside, the kitchen inside.
Thank God for the benefit we have right now.
Nearly 200 miles of roads have been built or reconstructed in the parishes of St. Catherine, St. Thomas, Trelawney, St. James, Hanover, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland and Clarendon.
Based on the roads that we did, it has created some form of ease for the truckers. Citizens of the area, they also benefit from the road.
More than 2,000 SDA residents have received vocational training.
The center would have been equipped to the tune of over 7 million Jamaican dollars to purchase various forms of training supplies and equipment across 3 skill areas: apiculture, bartending, and cosmetology.
I have been receiving training in various areas such as facial, massage, nail.
They have helped me to be certified and I can now earn an honest living from this.
The EU provided over 100 million Jamaican dollars in new business grants to residents in sugar-dependent areas.
Thanks to the EU
for giving me this injection of 1,000 chickens, the feed and medication.
I received $1 million, and it makes me into a woman that I am today.
The EU's AMS program has also funded extensive improvement to health facilities.
We expand the waiting area, operational space for our doctors and nurses.
The staff morale, it has improved because you're better able to work with more privacy.
With the funding, we're able to open this section we call the male ward. It is marked improvement over what it was.
You feel comfortable, feel like at home.
Enhancement of educational facilities.
I have assisted us in erecting an auditorium. We have a fully refurbished computer lab, and we have a library with over 300 books.
We got $11 million to build the facility, and it was a wonderful restroom for the school, and we appreciate it.
Upgrade of childcare facilities.
The funds were used to retile the bathrooms. We improved the plumbing area on the dorms, extended the kitchen and the dining room.
Conservation of the environment.
We embarked on a project here in Salt River, the Portland Biodiscovery Center. Funding has gone towards the erection of the building as well as the construction of the boardwalk.
Increased access to sporting facilities and the preservation of Jamaica's historical architecture.
We were fortunate to get funding for the rehabilitation of the building with computers and computer workstations.
The EU-Jamaica relationship has strengthened considerably in recent years.
Our contribution focused on building resilience, improving quality of life of people in the communities, and providing alternatives. I am absolutely confident that the strong and very constructive relationship that we have today, based on trust, based on partnership, will continue.
You see how the European Union partner with us?
You're right, Mas Errol. Life's sweeter for true with the EU.
Whether you drive on 2 wheels or 4, there's one thing I can guarantee you. That is that you know someone that's gonna need blood one day, or you might just be that someone. So here's the deal. The blood we have can only supply about 50% of the need. That's why, with the craziness that's happening on the roads, we need you to join the One Love, One Blood campaign. The life you save just might be your own.
'Cause I was born here, and I was raised here. Sunshine Jamaica, my blessed Jamaica, mighty one, oh, I bless our land always, for strength and no vigor, with love and no courage, oh yeah. So let's remind ourselves and tell the world hello, hello, I'm a Jamaican, we are Jamaicans.
Keep up with the happenings in your street, your city, country, or corner. We here at the Jamaica Information Service are making sure you have the necessary resources to do so with our social media pages, website, iOS and Android apps. Visit, like, follow, share, subscribe. All you need to know in a click, a tap, a swipe, or even a voice command. I'm Theodore Henry, reminding you that knowledge pays the best interest. Happy Saturday and have a great weekend.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.